Alright, so in this video I want to share with you the lighthearted, fun, uplifting, and enlightening mechanics of how you can start your very own cult and brainwash people and control them and have all of the love, power, attention, and control that you deserve. Because obviously you deserve it because you want it, so you deserve it, right? It's your divine heritage, it's your divine birthright. But first, I want to share a little bit of my personal story and experience. Get into some feelings with you guys, because I saw in a meme earlier that being vulnerable is like apparently more spiritual and enlightened than not being vulnerable. So I obviously want to do that, so I'm going to do it. So I grew up in the Bible Belt. I grew up in Middle America. And I lived there for most of my life, actually. And my whole life, kind of hated it. Thought it was rather dreadful and boring. Never felt comfortable with it and felt pretty angry and isolated because of the sheer level of ignorance and complacency that I was surrounded by all the time. Because it was the Bible Belt, meaning church every half mile, just tons of them. Yeah, hardcore conservative, hardcore Christian, racist, sexist, bigoted, all of it just built in, normal, not even necessarily overt or necessarily always active, but there. Definitely there all the time. So that's where I grew up. And then as I got older, I started to see things more for what they were and see, oh wait, this is actually, people are just brainwashed by all of this hierarchical nonsense, basically this parasite in their consciousness that they are dominated by, that they are controlled by, because the number one function of a parasite and or virus is basically survival and reproduction. I mean, that's in many ways our number one drive too, supposedly. So I grew up in that thinking, oh man, people here in the Bible Belt are just so, like, it's not that there's no awareness. It's not that the awareness is low. It's just that there isn't any. It's just that hasn't really crept in. And the desire to even have anything else is just not there. It's just, like I said, complacency, apathy, and slavery is what it is. Psychological, emotional, spiritual slavery, servitude, being indentured to the ruling bodies of the government, of religion, of all of these institutions, of all of the classes, and all of the cultural and societal nonsense that, was there. So I came away thinking, you know what, this part of the country kind of sucks. This genre of Christians and very narrow-minded people sucks. So let me just expand and get into new things, get into more alternative or more consciousness or awareness-based things. So I did that, and still have been doing that, and been grossly and tremendously disappointed and shocked, actually, which is symptomatic of my own stupidity, because I thought, oh, things will be different. For example, I moved from the Bible Belt to the West Coast, to supposedly one of the more progressive places, more open, conscious, whatever places, and was extremely fucking disappointed. Extremely, just shocked. Like, what? It took me a while because I got here. I started meeting people. They came on these ways, and their marketing and their sales promotion was something, but then what was in front of me didn't really match it, and it was quite shocking, to say the least. And what I came away realizing is, oh wait, they are just as brainwashed, if not even probably more so, because what they did was took the existing propaganda and brainwash and self-hatred that was put there by religion to begin with, and they didn't really look at that or even consider that as a thing, and just layered more shit on top of it, and just keep layering more stuff and layering and layering, layering and stacking, and all of these things they have to be and prove and demonstrate, and basically a lot of times just develop some sort of like Christ kind of, or some Messiah, martyr kind of idea. Just like the other day, I was at breakfast, and people were just like a whole table of people just screaming and yelling at each other, having this political debate. Just like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, really? Anywho, so there's also a video I did called "Why I Don't Trust Most People or Take Them Seriously," which many of those stories were actually from my experience here. And basically realizing just how deeply psychotic and schizophrenic and really self-murdered modern people are. Not necessarily by their own fault, but really understanding that that's just what we were given. That's the cultural context in which we were brought up in. So obviously what we manifest from that is going to be mirroring that. It's like if you plant a lemon seed, a lemon tree grows. If you plant an apple tree grows. And it grows according to certain processes over time. That's just common sense. So if you start off with a cultural basis, a way of looking at the world, looking at yourself, which is rooted in self-hatred, guilt, shame, blame, false hierarchies, and a lot of other psychotic nonsense, if that's your cultural belief system, if that is what you believe you are and the world is, then what can you really expect to come out of that? Well, obviously something that makes you really easy to manipulate and control by people in your life, by institutions all around you, makes you really complicit and complacent to accept all manner of abuse, all manner of violence, all manner of negligence, both from the outside world and towards yourself. Because a lot of people get really mixed up and want to blame the outside world or blame all of these things out here for all of these problems. But really what I'm saying, and what I have been saying for about a few years now, is yeah, sure, that is true. Yes, but can you really do anything about that? Do you have really the right to do anything about that? Or are you going to tell someone what they should do, which is the exact same thing that you're supposedly trying to be an alternative to? Okay. But so let's say, well, what can we do? Well, first you probably look at how violent you are towards yourself, the amount of negligence you do towards yourself, the level of servitude and indenturedness and slavery that you inflict upon yourself every day, in the way you do it to other people, in the way you accept that from other people. And this is also probably why I've lost a lot of followers and people in my life over the years, is because this shit is not really, it's not politically correct, it's not comfortable, it's not fun. I mean, I think it's all of those things, but obviously I'm a bit weird. But it's like, but people also want to say, oh, well, you're just being negative or you're being angry or whatever. It's like, well, no, I'm actually willing to be negative and or angry so that a positive change can come about and be a result. Because oftentimes, if you've been so mired in self-hatred, lack of self-worth, no spine, no integrity, really what you need to develop usually is kind of a fuck you. Meaning, and I don't mean that in a violent, assertive way over other people necessarily. What I mean is, like, if something comes towards you and you're like, nah, fuck that, like, no. Or it's like, pops up in your head, this bad habit or some destructive thing that you're going to get into, and you're just like, nah, fuck that, I'm not going to do that, it's stupid. To develop this ability to say no. And that has really been taken away from people. the ability to strongly be like, no. And I don't mean strongly as in you have to be like psychotic and up in arms about it, but it could be just as simple as just say, you know what, no thanks, I'm not interested. I realize you have a right to be a salesman, but I also realize I have the right to decline that invitation. Can be as simple as that. But it also can be a bit messier if your entire identity in your life is constructed around a bunch of shite like that. But yeah, so that's kind of a bit of story and what I've come to realize. And now I don't really care. Like, it just kind of is what it is. And really try to just understand it for myself and move myself out of it as I can. Which is why I'm making the video and why I've made a lot of videos is because really what else could we do? Because if we're just out, waving more placards and yelling at people and being angry and like feeling like shit, then we're not really offering anything. So it helps to be, cultivate our sense of enjoyment, cultivate our sense of being able to have fun and enjoy life, and move through this stuff and see it for really what it is, which is usually just pain and insecurity. Because if a person has to operate in this way, if an institution has to operate in this way, it means it's really fucking insecure and it's really impotent. Because it has to construct and do all of these things just to keep you on board. So it's really, there's just usually nothing there. So now let's get into the mechanics of how this all works. And how you too might be able to start your own cult. But actually, really, more importantly, how you can see these mechanics in your own self. And that's really the point, I think. So the first and the most foundational thing is the original sin, the original stain, or some sense of being broken or lesser than. Without that deep wound, none of this stuff will work. Which, if you look at what we are told we are when we come into this world, if we are a man in modern times, usually our genitals are mutilated out of some strange idea, which makes no sense, but that's what we're brought into off the bat. And that doesn't necessarily include our time in the womb, but that's just sort of like our initial glimpse into the world. Or maybe if we're male or female, maybe we're like spanked. Or maybe we were really lucky and we're born in more up-to-date circumstances where our first experience of life isn't violence. But hey. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is once we get older, if we're brought up in a religious household, or if we're brought up in modern times, basically what we're told is, yo, you're here on probation. There's this hierarchy of the world, and you're at the fucking bottom. But actually, depending on your race, depending on your class, depending on your penis size or your breast size or your attractiveness, then you're better than all of these people, but you're still less than all of these people, and you're definitely less than God, and you're less than all of the religious people, so be on your best fucking behavior. That's basically what we are told. And then the flip side of that is if we want to be, modern and scientific is, oh, well, you know what? There was just the Big Bang. We don't really know why. We don't really know what it was. This theory is actually asinine and laughable as anything advanced. But here it is as advanced and scientific and intellectual and logical and pragmatic and based in anything other than just superstition. But here it is. There was the Big Bang, and then now here we're here. There's just been this reaction that's been playing out over time through cause and effect, through Newtonian mechanics, but now maybe quantum mechanics, but still probably Newtonian mechanics, and all these complex things. And there's evolution, there's survival of the fittest. There is basically, we started off as these apes, but now we've climbed our way up through the hierarchy, and now we're humans, but still, there's still places we could go. We could merge ourselves with computers. We could merge ourselves with all forms of technology, and then we'll be like this idea that we supposedly don't believe in, that we're supposedly an alternative to, and that we're supposedly moving away from, but we're actually just coming around full circle and moving exactly right back towards it because we never actually examined our pre-existing beliefs in the first fucking place. Isn't it funny how that works? So we're basically saying the same exact thing, just in a way which maybe will appeal to whatever bias you might have. And then there's the other bias. You could say, oh, fuck that. It's all bullshit. Satan is the way. And it's like, wait, your alternative view just validates the thing you're supposedly being an alternative to. But then maybe you want to play it safe and not offend anyone. Say, oh, well, I just don't know. I'm just an agnostic, which is still validating all of the things because you've never taken the time to actually examine them and see them for what they are and take them back to the roots at all. You just kind of want to be safe and like not really do or say anything, or just be like, oh, it's all one, you know. Every religion, everything has its place, has its meaning, has its use. They're all great, they're all useful, they're all the same too, but we need them. Nothing. That's just not just politically correct bullshit. That's masquerading as humility and masquerading as some sort of advanced point of view, when in actuality it's just as like shallow. But anywho, it is better than hatred, but at the same time you're allowing hatred to shape and form your view, which is not really an alternative, and it's not really doing anything. It's just being controlled by the thing that you're trying to get away from. Makes sense. So that's the first piece. You gotta have that. Without that, none of the shit will really work, because then you see the stuff and you're just like, what? Wait, you want me to imagine this and then really imagine that and then do this weird self-hypnotic exercise and then give you this thing, and then that's what? That's what you want me to do? What the fuck are you talking about? Because that's what I mean. These things have nothing. They just like to reach in and reach for and grab in parts of your psyche that are weak, which is basically, on an individual basis, how psychopaths and sociopaths and extremely malignant individuals work. They find creaks and holes in your psyche, and they try to push that button and trigger you. And you can see that in, well, actually, I got loads of examples of that in my, pull up my text, pull up my Facebook, pull up my YouTube, whatever, where it's like, people will try logic or try to make some, whatever, more appropriate play, right? But then if you're just like, no thanks, or some response that they don't like that makes them feel, then they will go back to, oh, well, I'm going to try to hit him with guilt, try to hit this person with shame or blame, or find out really where their psyche is wounded and press that button. And then if you don't know about that button, if you don't know about that part, or you are completely in denial, then you're going to, oh, what the fuck? And get all triggered and think that that thing really has power, but all you're doing is re-experiencing some sort of like poke that you have in yourself, and allowing this other person to play some distorted, twisted game, which is inherently violent and manipulative. But then it's great when you say that to people. For example, here's an example. So, I'm not going to get into that. I'm not going to get into too many examples. I don't want to make people personally that upset. But this is just basically a mechanism that happens, is where it's also what children will do. It's emotional manipulation. It's something all humans are capable of. Anywho, moving on. So this is the base problem, which then you need to, well, what's the solution? Well, the first thing you need to offer is some sort of explanation. Like, well, it's just your negative thinking. You know, at your core, you are divine, pure light. You are a child of God. You're a child of the Creator. You're a child of the infinite oneness and love that is life itself. You are that. At your core, that is who you are. And that is beautiful. It is perfect. And it is amazing. and it is completely whole. But your negative thinking, all of these things you attach to, all of these things you cling to, all of these things, this is what keeps you from experiencing the infinite love, the infinite light, the infinite perfection of who you are. Every fucking cult, every religion, all of them go back to that core bullshit. Throw in some bullshit about being in the present moment. Throw in some bullshit about your lower animal desires. Now you have to overcome all of your animal desires and the desires of the body and the desires of the flesh. And then also throw in some shit about, oh, there's the out group and they're evil, they're not enlightened. You got to throw that in. And you got to give some sort of rules, some sort of basis. So you have to provide some sort of technique for people feeling endorphins. Ecstatic dance or physical exercise or calisthenics or gymnastics or breathing practices. Some type of methodology for people to get endorphins. And then because of you're doing it in the hypnotic state of it being attached to spirituality and personal development, people are going to attach, oh wait, I feel good. That must mean I'm growing spiritually. I really am releasing things, or I really am light. But here's the thing. You can get high as fuck that in so many different ways, and it has nothing to do at all with anything spiritual or anything religious or anything personal growth. You're just getting high. And that's actually completely okay. It's completely fine. If you want to get high, then just get fucking high. If you want to feel good, then feel good. That's actually normal. I mean, why would you not want to feel good? Why would you not want to move your body? Why would you not want to feel alive? But when we start attaching it to, oh, well, it's because this teacher told me this, or it's because this is an ancient system. No, it's just fucking endorphins, man. It's like, it's really endorphins and some hypnosis is what it is. And I've taken hypnosis trainings and seminars, and we did all this shit to each other. We did the whole, like, when you see people, I now banish all of the negativity from you, and I put the power of God in you. And then they hit them, and they, like, fall over. We did that shit. But we were talking complete gibberish. And, like, I put the power of Kanye West in you now. And people are like, oh, and they fall over, and they can't not do it. Everyone around knows it's fake. But it's just basic hypnosis kind of shit. But we could do it completely sarcastically. We all know it's fake. But still, when we're there, we still fall over, and we can't not fall over. It has nothing to do with fucking magic. And then we also could pass around drug experiences. Through hypnosis, make people feel like they were on all kinds of drugs. It's really not a big deal. It is a big deal. It is fun, and it is amazing, and it's great to play with. But no need to layer all the psychosis and bullshit on top of it. Just let it be what it is. So you have to have that sort of key component, the release of endorphins. You also need some kind of cathartic way for someone to release negativity. Again, it could be the same physical discipline for people to cry and release emotions and have this catharsis. Because that's a huge thing where people believe that catharsis is some sort of spiritual shift. And I can't tell you how many people I talk to, then that's really the belief system. But really, I mean, yeah, having a cry feels great. You know, having this experience, it feels good. Yeah, sure. But it doesn't necessarily mean anything outside of that. And then it gets extremely nefarious when it's in this context. So you need to have both of these things, because this allows you to really control both sides of people. You know all of their negative shit because they've released it or unburdened themselves to you, so you can manipulate them even more deeply because you know all of their buttons. And then at the flip side, you control their source of power or their source of pleasure. So you fucking got them. Because what really drives human beings? Pleasure? Pain. At a really basic level. So when you're at that, and then you tie it to this whole hierarchy and this whole complex matrix of nonsense that you've created, you really got people. Which that whole matrix is the hierarchy that you've created, that you've given to people. That replaces the one that they had before and really just fits into it perfectly, because they never actually thought to question that, oh yeah, the world really isn't hierarchical. That's just a completely fabricated idea, which has no validity in experience, and it's completely imaginary. It's something we made up for convenience to organize things, but yet we think the world and the reality really is like that, and even the spiritual world is really like that. That just shows how fucking naive we actually are. So you have to give them this hierarchy to cling to climb up, but then the hierarchy to follow. Meaning, okay, well, this is going to get you to this level, this practice is going to get you to this level, you know. You have released, but you haven't released enough, and you've cultivated endorphins, but you haven't cultivated enough endorphins. But you're only at level 2, you need to get to level 6 before you can get this and this and this. Again, when you take this hierarchy, this hamster wheel, this staircase, this stairway to heaven, when you take that, you combine it with techniques for getting people high, for them to feel endorphins, and for them to release negativity, and you know all of their negative shit. Oh, man, it's going to be difficult to leave. Which, that's when you bring in the fear of leaving. It's like, yeah, if you quit now, I mean, why would you want to quit now? You've come so far. If you quit now, you're going to just have wasted all of this work that you've put in. You're going to undo all of the work, on all your negative karma is going to come back, and all of your negative thinking is going to come back, and you're just going to be out there in the world with those regular people, and they're not going to understand and be able to accept you because you've seen the light now. And then the other side is, oh, but we're going to damn you. If you leave, we're not going to be able to talk to you because you're no longer, on the path. You're no longer cultivating the light. You've succumbed to living in the past or living in the future, or your desires, or your animal desires, or your base desires, or your negative thinking. You've succumbed, and now you are evil and you must be shunned. And then that gets even more tricky when you're in this system, this matrix, this hierarchy, and then you connect like a community kind of to it, like a family, like a bond. You start connecting with people and having emotional bonds, and because have this group of people that you're having all these endorphins released with, you're getting your sort of heart center really open, and then you start bonding and connecting with people more deeply. And then you're connecting that with fear of leaving, you're connecting that with this hierarchy of things that you want, you're connecting that with what you imagine you're going to get, you're connecting that with whoever the power figure is in the power system. That's a really difficult thing to walk away from. And then especially because it allows you the convenience of continually rearranging your existing nonsense, your existing psychosis, your existing schizophrenia under new and better labels. Because you start off here, right here, my hand represents, the ball of psychosis and bullshit that you walk in with. But then you walk in the door, and they then all automatically allow you to rearrange that under their new label. And you're like, oh, it makes so much sense. My whole life I've been looking, and now I found it, and I found the reasons and the explanations, and this just makes so much sense. And then I went through I did the practice, and now I feel so much lighter, like I've released it. Oh, finally. But really all you've done is just rearranged slightly facelifted your pre-existing psychosis, and then keep going in and just keep facelifting it, keep rearranging it, keep basically rearranging the furniture on the Titanic, all the while telling yourself, because you're under all this hypnosis, oh, I'm growing spiritually, oh, I'm releasing negativity, I'm healing, I'm doing this, I'm releasing ancestral bonds, I'm healing my karma, I'm building this tribe, this family, we're going to save the world, we're going to change the world, we're going to revolutionize. In this, we're visionaries, we're just a lot of fucking hypnosis that we're inflicting on ourselves, and we're agreeing to when we are complicit with. It's hilarious. And really, to wrap up all of the mechanisms that I just talked about, why I'm saying all this is first and foremost so we can see it in ourselves, because we are brought up in this modern world. And all of the mechanisms that I'm saying are true, not just in weird cults. Mainstream religions, check. Mainstream spirituality, check. Obviously, fucking new agey shit, check. Political arenas, check. Education system, class system, it's really all there. Because it's all the same. Like, we're up here at the stems and branches and fruits of the tree thinking, oh my god, that's different. Oh my god, it's different. Oh my god, it's so different. And then we think, I'm going to work on my spiritual self. And then I'm going to work on my emotional self. Now I'm working on my psychic self. And now I'm working on my social self. Now I'm working on my empowered self to save the world. Now I'm working on my inner child. Now I'm doing this. Now I'm doing that. No, not actually. It's just one system here that you're working with. But the fact that you believe there are all these different things is indicative and revealing that you are, in fact, doing the exact things that I just outlined from my notebook. It's the hypnosis, the delusion, the psychosis, the schizophrenia, which if you look at the definition of those words, it's exactly what I mean, because it's how this shit works. And then you go to school, you go to places, and then you think they're going to give you answers, but the answers that they're going to give you are exactly 99% of the time from the system, because they haven't actually seen it for what it is and taken it to the core, so they can't do shit. Which is great. It's really quite entertaining. But the thing is, if you really start to see things for what they are, you can potentially be more empowered, have more fun, have more enjoyment, or just be a lot more isolated, depressed, and angry, depending on which direction you want to take it in. A little bit of both. But I recommend the former. It's a bit more fun. So we know use in the other one. But it will happen. I can guarantee you. And you gotta go through it. But like Sigmund Freud said, or no, it wasn't Freud, it was fuck, I can't remember his name. Oh yeah, damn it, I just forgot his name. Basically said, Artie Lang, who said it. Said there's the pain of living, and there's the pain of trying to avoid pain. So there's that. But then there's also just the idea that it should be any different, that it should be this bliss, that it should be this one-dimensional, one-sided kind of thing. Which again, where does that come from? Well, this is some Christian bullshit that we believed in, that there really is this light and dark kind of battle, and all this imaginary nonsense that is such a burden to people. That's really the practicality of it, is it's a burden. It's a drain. It's a really shitty way to use your energy. It's a really unenjoyable way to live your life. It really doesn't do anything other than benefit people that are not you. So there's that. But the last thing I'll say is I think many people will walk away thinking that, oh, I'm an atheist. Oh, he's just some kind of negative asshole who doesn't believe in anything. Well, maybe, but not really. Because the thing is many of the things that we seek are already in our experience, and they're not special. They're just natural aspects of being alive and being human beings. We don't necessarily need any institution or thing to arrive at that. That's one side of it. The other side of it is there are actual legitimate lineages for growing spiritually, for, if you want to call it that, or basically learning to work with physicality in a certain way, then learning to work with energy in a certain way, then learning to work with higher vibrations of energy in certain ways. And it's not weird, it's not new agey, it's not wishy-washy, it's not based on intuition, it's not based on any of that complete and utter bullshit. It's actually a bit more scientific, because it's like, well, here's the variables we're working with, here's the equation that you need to put into play to work with these variables, and here's the system of steps and processes that you will go through. It's actually science, so it's really interesting how things are really reversed. But shit like that is not really available in the world because of all of the shit that I've just really talked about. And yeah, but I don't really want to go into that too much more, but I guess all I really want to say is I'm actually not very pessimistic. I'm not very negative. It just really seems that way because we are living in a fairy tale kind of reality. So then when someone comes in and says something that's actually calling that into question, then all of a sudden they are evil. They are evil. It's great. Maybe I am evil, but maybe I really don't give a fuck. Anyways, thanks for watching this video. Hopefully you're able to release all of your negative thinking and allow the infinite love that is who you are. That is your birthright. That is your destiny as a child of the infinite love creator universe. Yeah, makes total sense. Anyways, I'll talk to you soon.